What would you do if the unthinkable happened? How could you go on with life if your child died? How would you feel? How could you possibly deal with the pain, the loss, the devastation? Would you know where to go for help? Could you possibly find hope in the face of such grief?
Welcome to the Dr. Gloria and Dr. Heidi Show. This show is brought to you by the Open to Hope Foundation with the mission of helping people find hope after loss. And now, Dr. Gloria and Dr. Heidi.
Hello, I'm Dr. Heidi with my mom, Dr. Gloria. We are both psychologists and experts in grief recovery. Coming up, we will answer these questions and many more.
Yes, today we'll share with you information from some of the foremost experts in the transformational power of grief. Experts who, like us, have not only talked the talk, but have walked the walk.
Yes, Mom, hi. Our first guest today is Dr. Ken Druck.
Ken's an amazing guy, isn't he?
He is, and he is the founder of the Jenna Druck Center. And, you know, I love Ken because Ken fills stadiums with his message of transformation after loss.
Yeah, he lost his daughter Jenna in a bus accident in India, and she was on study abroad, and he's gone on. Well, he was well known before she died and had written a tremendous book on men, been on Oprah, been on all sorts of shows, and he's gone on to dedicate his life and his work into Jenna's memory and has written a great new book.
Yes, in fact, I have it right here. His book is The Real Rules of Life, Balancing Life's Terms with Your Own.
Great book. So, and then our next guest is going to be Patricia Loader. And Patricia is the, as you remember, the director of the Compassionate Friends, the executive director, and you're on their board, right?
I was going to say, I definitely know Pat very well, and I do remember her. Yes, I am on the board of the Compassionate Friends, and Pat, again, is someone that has completely transformed her life after great adversity and loss.
Yeah, it's an amazing story Pat brings in. She brings such spirit to people because she lost both her kids in an accident where she was hit by a high-speed motorcycle and killed her two children, Stephen and Stephanie. And she's gone on to just transform her life and other people's, and it's going to be exciting to have her on the show today.
Absolutely, Mom, and I've just got to say, you know, can you imagine losing your only two children in a car accident? Suddenly they're gone at 5 and 8 years old, and going on eventually to be the executive director of the largest grief and loss organization in the world.
Yeah, an amazing thing. And then we're going to have Chris Donahoe on, and Chris is an amazing singer, and I know it's dear to your heart.
It is. Chris is very near and dear to my heart because he does everything in the memory of his brother Terrence, and I do all my work in the memory of my brother Scott.
Right, and my son Scott, we both do that. And so Chris is very inspiring because I know that you feel like that sometimes siblings kind of get some short shift, right?
We do. Sometimes we're overlooked and unacknowledged, and our loss sometimes can take a backseat to the death of a child. So I'm here to be kind of that voice to say, you know what, we hurt too, and these were our siblings. And I love Terrence's story because Terrence, as he was dying, he died of MS, and as he was dying, he lived life to the fullest, and he had such gratitude. And he taught us to love life even, you know, when you're dying.
Absolutely. It's a great story. So why don't we get started with our guests?
Okay, that's great, Mom. I'd love to do that. Oh, you know, before we get started, I want to show a video of Dr. Ken's center, the Jenna Druck Center, and I want to just show that for a minute, and this is dedicated to Jenna.
And then after that, we'll introduce Dr. Ken.
Very good.
Great idea. But before we get started, I want to talk about our audience. We've got a fantastic audience here today. And a lot of them are bereaved parents and bereaved siblings, and we want to thank everybody for coming to the show today. It's absolutely amazing that they were out here tonight to join us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Because like you said, the people in this audience have walked the walk. They've lost siblings, they've lost children, and they've gone on to transform their lives. And they show us basically that although our losses may define our lives, they in no way destroy our lives.
Absolutely. So we want to thank everybody for being here today, and let's see the video.
Okay.
The Jenna Druck Center, a story of the resilience and love of a family and community as they responded to a tragic loss. A story of the strength and hope that was created as they planted the seeds to honor a special life and continue an important legacy, turning grief into hope and strength into leadership.
I was lucky enough to be the little sister of Jenna Druck. She was one of my heroes.
Jenna knew that this was the ride. This moment counted. She cared about what was happening in society. She had a profound sense of social justice and compassion for all people.
Jenna could be described as a girl who never wasted a moment of her life.
During the adventure of a lifetime, Jenna was traveling and studying abroad with semester at sea. On the way to the Taj Mahal, she was in a fatal bus accident. Her life on this earth cut far too short. Her spirit lives on through 2 highly acclaimed programs, transforming thousands of lives each year. Families Helping Families is a unique program that offers support services and education, a lifeline of hope and support to countless families during the days, weeks, and months following a loss of a cherished loved one.
The Families Helping Families program helped me find the strength and courage to turn my grief into hope after losing my precious son, Matt. Now I'm able to help others navigate that difficult and painful journey that begins when someone you love dies.
Learn more at jennadrugcenter.org.
Wow, what an amazing show. And now let's introduce Dr. Ken.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
See you.
Back a little bit. Well, Dr. Ken, it's so great to have you on the show today.
So good to be with you. I'm so delighted to be doing this with you.
It's so wonderful because, as I said, we have wanted to bring this message out of hope and recovery and resilience after loss, and you really personify that.
Well, here you are. You've created an amazing environment for us to have these conversations, which, as we all know, are shunned. It's like nobody wants to talk about this. So where do people begin to go? Where are the resources? How do we find out about how we survive? And then how do we go on? And it's because of conversations like these.
And Jenna was such an amazing kid. I mean, we were talking before the show, and I was like, she did so much in the short life that she had. I mean, by 9, she was winning awards. By 14, she was speaking to audiences publicly. I mean, she was an amazing, amazing kid.
Yeah, Jenna was the most amazing person I've ever met. I've met some extraordinary people in this lifetime, and my daughter happened to be the most extraordinary person, and she was an E.T. I don't know what planet she came from, I don't know where she came from, but she took the world by storm, and what she did in 21 years indoors. So her programs, the Jenna Drug Center, and her spirit. She is our chief angelic officer. She's our
I love that.
our CAO, so she's working it from the other side.
That's good.
Fabulous. Well, Ken, can you tell us a little bit about the experience? I mean, I'm sure our audience is wondering out there. I mean, she died in India, going to get her body, doing all those things. That must have been unbelievable for you.
You know, the phone rings the day before we lost her. Dad, I can't believe it. Tomorrow I'm going to go see the symbol of eternal love, the Taj Mahal.
Wow.
She's on this study abroad trip, and they're going around the world, and they're going to come home May 15th. They're all coming home, yes.
Right.
And the next day, the bus is on one of the most treacherous roads in the world, and the bus flips over, and Jenna and 3 other beautiful young women die. And so the phone rings at 10 o'clock at night, and you know, it's the fear that most of us carry somewhere deep in our spine that we never even acknowledge. It's the unspeakable, unthinkable. And so in a moment, my life as I knew it ended, and every cell in my being turned inside out. And it's a kind of frozen in time moment where we know our life has ended, and we notice there's still some part of me that's alive. What am I going to do with the part of me that's still here? And
how are you going to live
journey.
the rest of your life without
right.
Jenna in it?
That's right. And why would I want to?
Right.
If it hurts this much, if there's this much pain, what kind of a sentence is this? What kind of cruel joke is it that I'm going to get to live out the rest of my life without Jenna? It's unthinkable. It's unspeakable. But from those moments where we can only survive one breath at a time, and thank God we're surrounded by angels. Yes, we are surrounded by who in their own helplessness say stupid things to us, say things that are insensitive. But thank God we're surrounded by people who show up and are angels. They breathe for us
And
when
it is
we
kind of
can.
interesting. Some of the people that you thought would show up don't, and then some of the people that you never even knew become your best friends.
How does that work? You know,
really something.
But that's one of the things that changes, and we experience it as a kind of a loss, because it's like, wait a minute, you're my best friend.
Right.
Or, you know, and you're
they
trying
can't
to
handle
put a spin on it, you're trying to fix me, you're disappearing, you're missing in action, and so we experience it as another loss. And it's important to balance that with understanding that we also can be grateful for the angels that show up. And some people they just can't show up. It's too hard for them. Our pain is overwhelming for them.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about your book, the Real Rules of Life, Balancing Your Life, Balancing Life's Terms with Your Own. You got the guy on the balance thing in school. So we picked out about 4 rules of life that we wanted to talk about with you. And let's see, what are some of the ones that you think are most...
First of all, I'm sitting here a couple of years ago, and I've been doing Jenna's Foundation 70 hours a week for 14 years, and I'm saying, and I can hear both my angel and earth daughters saying, Dad, get a life. You've got to step back, and you can also, by stepping back from the day-to-day a little bit, you can also touch the lives of more people. So I tried to distill the essence of everything I've learned about how life really is. No illusions, no misconceptions. How is life really? And how do we survive? How do we turn an adversity, a loss, a setback into something, a personal and spiritual good in our lives?
That's what I think is interesting, because you start out in the book talking about how you're basically at the bottom, and you're very angry, and your life is basically feeling like it's been destroyed, and then how do you transform and move out of that?
Yeah, and we all have a process. We're all so different. Some of us process, we're quiet and silent, but our processor's working, and that needs to be respected. Some of us need to talk, and we're ready for a support group. We're ready to come to Compassionate Friends meeting. We're ready to go to a Families Helping Families program. So we all have to respect that we process differently, especially in our own families. But we have to find a process, because unprocessed grief turns into a deadness, a dullness, displaced anger. We start biting other people's noses off. It turns into indifference for the pain of others. But processed grief turns into what? Compassion.
Right.
Compassion is your pain in my heart. So we have to process it. And one of the things we have to come face to face with is that life isn't fair.
So that's one of the rules.
One of the rules, life isn't fair.
Life isn't fair.
Right.
And paradoxically, it's more than fair. Let me say how it's more than fair. It's more than fair. What are we doing here? We're breathing air. We're spinning through space. We're on a tiny little speck of a planet. Life, the idea of life is preposterous. Life is more than fair. With these blessings, we can love. We can communicate. We can communicate to millions of people maybe watching this in different parts of the world whose hearts are hurting. So life is more than fair in one sense, but in another sense, life is not fair at all. That we have no exemptions. I thought I was special. I thought I had a deal, kind of. With, I got a deal. I'll be a good guy. I'll be a wonderful father. I'll do all the right things, and my kids will be protected.
Right.
Doesn't work that way. No deals. So none of us is special. None of us has an exemption card. None of us is. We're all going to go through life, and we don't get to play God. We do, however, get to make choices eventually. In the beginning, we're in that time of choicelessness. We're hanging on and fighting our way back into life.
Right.
But at some point, we do have choices about how we process.
So bad things happen to good people, and there are a lot of choice points along the way.
There are choice points.
Okay.
We wake up one day and we say, you know what? Even if I walk from here to the corner, if that's as good as I can do today, I'm going to do that today. And I'm not going to compare myself to the old normal. It's like, yeah, I used to be able to run miles. Look at me, I'm pathetic. We have to switch from the voice of self-criticism, self-condemnation, looking at our old normal, comparing ourselves to that person, and we have to switch to self-compassion.
How long do you think that
self-compassion, it's every day. I wake up and it's like Groundhog Day. And I look down 2 paths. I look down the path of despair. At the end of that path are both of my daughters saying, Dad, you quit. You stop being a father to both of us. I look down the other path and I see both of my daughters proud of me. My earth and angel daughters are saying, Dad, we would have understood if you'd quit. But you fought your way one breath at a time, one day at a time, back into life, and you made the rest of your life an expression of your love for us.
Now, how long did it
rather
take
than
you,
your
though?
pain.
How long did it take,
like that.
though? I mean, sometimes people are like, wow, you know, it's been 6 months. You know, let's get over it.
Grief has a life and a timetable all of its own. It's different for all of us. But if we start speaking the first day in the voice of self-compassion, kindness, encouragement, a hand up, we're down, we're destroyed, we're on the floor. Some of us are kicking ourselves.
Right.
Get up. Come on, the glass is half full. Come on. And we're listening to other people whose messages are saying, get over it, get on with it.
Right.
And we can barely get up. So the voice of self-compassion says, puts his hand on our shoulders and says, with kindness, encouragement, and patience, you're doing the best you can. Come on, let's go for a walk to the corner. Would that be okay? It's patient,
I like that.
it's loving.
We're loving on ourselves.
We have to.
And let's
I like
go out
that.
to the audience now and see if we can get
Great.
some questions for you, Ken,
Great.
on the audience loving on themselves. We've got a great audience here. Is our mic on? I hope so. Okay, let's get a question here.
Are there some do's and don'ts of supporting someone who's grieving?
Absolutely, and what a great question. How many of us are supporting somebody we love is grieving? We're not necessarily at the epicenter. They're at the epicenter. They're fighting for their lives. And we're trying to decide, I don't know what to do. What should I, and the first do is a simple, I'm so sorry. It's quieting our own tendency to want to put a spin on things, to say something that takes away your pain. Let me quick take away your pain. It's to realize we can't fix. There's not a fix for every problem. There's not a pill for every pain. There's not a diversion for every moment of emptiness. That we need to just be with that person. That's the first do. And to listen attentively, to be a witness to what they're going through rather than try to fix them. A don't is to put a spin, to try to come up with some magical way. Hey, I'm going to say something. It's going to take away your other, or I'm going to ask a question like, do you have other kids? Wrong. Zzz, wrong question. Because what does that send? What message does that send when you say, it's like, you feel like saying, oh my goodness, I forgot I have another kid. Why am I so sad?
Right.
I have another one at home,
I
So,
think that one can replace
exactly.
the one that died.
They want to
Exactly.
stop that grief. Heidi always says something which I like. She says, I used to send a casserole and now I send myself. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Has anybody else got a question they'd like to give Dr. Ken? Here we go. You can say your name if you want to. Your first
My
name.
name is Rebecca. How did your daughter grieve? Did she grieve differently than you did, and how were you able to support your other daughter?
Most important thing, if you
Love
pick,
it.
if
That's
you
a
pick
good
up
question.
page 1, and Heidi said this to me, I said, Heidi, what touched you the most about the book? And she said, your dedication of this book to Steffi, to your Earth daughter. My gratitude for her hanging in there with me as I fought my way one baby step at a time, truly, back into life is unlimited. So Steffi definitely grieved, and we understand so little. Heidi will tell you a lot about this. We understand so little about the experience, and we as families have to embrace an ethic. The ethic we have to embrace is take the high road. After 9/11, we saw this. Families were tearing apart. We have to make our relationships with our families an expression of our love for the person we've lost, not of our rawness, our unknowingness, our impatience, and our desire to get over and get over the pain.
Well, even in the Jenna Drug Center video, you have Steffi in there.
Yep.
So you've not forgotten about her, and you've acknowledged that her grief is just as important and as hard as yours.
Yep. And we are so far behind on creating resources for siblings. We have the Jenna Drug Center, we have groups for the little kids and the middle kids, but still it is very hard, and we haven't found a way to be successful in engaging the older siblings and getting them involved, because their story is they're dealing with grieving parents, often who are pulling apart in different ways, I mean, it's unimaginable what they're dealing with. And that story is so important to be told. And Steffi, thank goodness, has grown strong and has a voice, and she's become my teacher to tell me what she goes through as having lost her sister. And it changes all the time, as it does for me.
Mm-hmm. Right. Anybody else have a question?
Hi, my name is Chuck.
Chuck.
In dealing with the anniversary dates from year to year, does it change as it goes out 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years?
And how long has it been for you, Chuck?
24 years.
Okay.
Anniversaries are very tricky. From a perch in heaven, anniversaries don't exist. Grief occurs both inside of time and outside of time. Anniversaries are very tricky invitations. They're invitations to be re-traumatized or invitations to celebrate. And I choose to celebrate Jenna's birthday rather than her death date. Everybody's different. But the anniversary is an invitation to be re-traumatized, and we must learn how to resist that invitation by keeping it simple. Sometimes I think about the day after the anniversary and I plan something special, because what am I doing? I'm fooling my mind into thinking ahead that I am going to live the next day. This day will pass. Mm-hmm. And how do I use this and every day as an expression of my love, as a celebration of the essence of the person I love, whether it's their sense of humor, their dearness, their enthusiasm for living, whatever quality you cherish in your son or daughter, your son, to have it be a celebration of that rather than re-traumatizing yourself.
Anybody else have another question?
My name's Eliza. I'm a college student, and I recently, my roommate lost her father this year, and I was wondering if you have any suggestions into offering support to someone who's grieving away from home as opposed to being with her family at that time.
You're her buddy, you're her witness. The fact that you're even here asking that question, of all the things you could be asking, lets me know that you hold her in your heart. And I think the idea of just being with her and allowing her to air out. A grieving person needs a safe space above anything. They don't need answers, and they're going to be asking questions, but a safe place to not be judged. Become that judgment-free zone where she can air out, where you're not there trying to fix or figure out, which is what the trap that we get into, but you're there and that you're asking open-ended questions. You know, the best, most powerful tool in communication is listening, and it's the art of asking the open-ended question that says, what do you think your options, what are you thinking you might want to do? Or how could you stay in closer touch with your family? Or what's it like being so far from your family? Well, is it even harder in some ways? So asking that open-ended question can be so helpful. You're a healing presence as a friend, and that means everything to her.
Well, thank you, everybody, the audience, for those questions, and thank you for being on the show today and for answering all those questions and for all the work you're doing with the Gina Drutz Center and being the person you are, Ken. You're fabulous.
Yes, Ken. Thank you so much. So much. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Blessings. Thank you. Thank you.
And now our next guest, Heidi, is going to be Patricia Loader, Executive Director of the Compassionate Friends, and as we said, a great friend of ours. And before we have her on, why don't we see a video about the Compassionate Friends, which, as we've said, is the largest grief support organization for bereaved parents, siblings, and grandparents in the world. And a lot of people have not heard about it, so we want to shout out loud and clear for the help that this organization gives the world.
Absolutely. Okay.
Let me introduce you to TCF. We are a special organization serving the parents, grandparents, brothers, and sisters of children gone too soon. Through a national network of outstanding volunteers, we devote ourselves to helping families deal with the death of a child at any age and from any cause. Our chapter leaders hold monthly meetings where those who have experienced the death of a child, grandchild, brother, or sister may come and talk about their feelings, remember and celebrate their loved ones, and help one another with hugs and hope.
It was that yearning to have
someone to tell my story and to try to find comfort.
I found validation.
It gave me hope, and it made me, I found friends and people that understood what I was going through and that didn't try and push me and rush me and like turn their backs on me.
It's been an incredible source of strength and support for me, and so I just love the organization.
I think I'm a different person, not because of the death of my daughter, but because of the way I celebrate her life with the Compassionate Friends.
I felt overwhelmed, didn't know where to turn, and I learned quickly through the Compassionate Friends that others, like yourself, who've experienced that loss, could help me like no other.
Come here. This is a place that people are going to befriend you and they're going to save you and give you hope.
Well, Heidi, let's introduce Pat Loder now.
Absolutely.
Hi, Pat.
Hey, Pat. Good to see you.
Pat, it's so great to have you on the show today, and you're such an inspiration to everybody.
You really are. Yeah, she is.
I know. She's amazing. Your spirit, your energy, and your story is just, I mean, you have had unbelievable things happen and have been able to come through it, and what an inspiration. Can you talk about your kids a little bit and your story?
I'd love to. It was the first day of spring, 1991, and we were on our way home. My parents, we had just lost my brother 6 months before, and I thought that perhaps if I helped them, that would help fix them. You know, I was naive at that time. And so I went over and was doing things at their house and trying to keep them company, bringing my children with me. And we were on our way home, my son and daughter. Stephen was 5 at the time. Stephanie was 8. And we were ready to turn onto our street. And unbeknownst to me, there was a light down the street, and one motorcycle driver motioned to the others that the last one to the bar should buy. And the first one blew the light, and he zoomed past me, and I thought, wow, you know, but I started to make my turn, not knowing that the other two were just behind him. And I started to make the turn, and one of the motorcycles hit my car in the side. My children were seated.
Wow.
Pushing it 26 feet sideways.
Oh, jeez.
Wow. And you ended up in the hospital.
I did.
And one of your children died at the scene, right?
Right.
And one of them ended up in the hospital, and your husband had to go to another city or whatever, right?
She was, Stephanie was flown to the University of Michigan Trauma Center, and where my husband was taken by a family friend, and later they did test on her and said there was no brain activity.
Wow.
So he had to call me at the other hospital and ask if we should turn off the machine.
And
wow.
Yeah, incredible devastation in your life. And then you went on.
Well, that's the amazing part, Mom. I've got to say, this is so much for me to take in. I mean, to think about having your brother die, and 6 months later, you're in a car where both your children at the ages of 5 and 8 die, all within a 6-month period. I mean, you just wonder, how does somebody ever find joy again? How do they transform their lives? That's why I think your story is so important for those out there that really don't know how they're going to do it.
Absolutely.
And don't believe that they ever will find anything but misery at this point.
Right. And so then you went on?
To find the Compassionate Friends, I did. Actually, it was a case of, you know, take me any place, just don't take me there, because I didn't want to admit that I was a bereaved parent. It was very painful to even think about the fact that the kids had died. And but sitting at a Compassionate Friends meeting, I heard somebody talk about that videotape that never went off in their head. And I thought, wow, somebody else has that videotape playing, just like I do, because I used to play the accident over and over in my head until I would wake up screaming or whatever the case may be. And when I heard her say that she had that videotape, I thought, wow, I'm really not alone. And it really was a comfort to know that I wasn't alone, that there were other people who felt that same thing that I was feeling. Those, you kind of need that check, so to speak, and it provided that for me.
So it kind of normalizes your grief, because I know early on grief can feel really crazy.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you're like, is this normal? Is this not normal? I feel like I don't even recognize myself anymore. And so being around other bereaved parents, it sounds like they got it. And you realize, okay, wait a minute, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
Other people have been there.
Absolutely. You talked in the first segment about losing your friends
Right.
or gaining friends that you never knew before the accident. That happened to us, And the fact that I went to a Compassionate Friends meeting and nobody shushed me, Nobody said, you're dwelling on it. You really shouldn't talk about it. You're just, bringing up all those bad memories. But what they didn't know is those bad memories were up there in my head anyways, all the time.
So, Pat, how did you find the group? And I'm thinking for people out there who listen to the show, what is Compassionate Friends? And I think people will be surprised to know what there are 650 chapters in the United States?
There's 650 chapters in the United States, in every state, in Puerto Rico, and Guam. It's a network of chapters where it's peer-to-peer support. We don't have professionals at the meeting. It's one bereaved family member to another. And it really normalizes, and you know that you're not alone through it.
And one of the things we were talking to you today, we had Heidi and I had lunch with you. We were saying, because Heidi's a therapist and I'm a therapist, that you actually go to therapy and Compassionate Friends too, right?
I did.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you want to do them both, you can?
Oh,
or
absolutely.
Just one?
I needed both.
Right.
I just needed both. After a while, obviously, I dropped the therapy portion, but I'm not afraid to say that, if you need therapy, by all means, you should get therapy.
And the other piece is that not all people do need therapy.
Absolutely.
But,
That's true.
sometimes you do. And I love the idea of Compassionate Friends. I love what it says. They say what? That you need not walk alone.
We need not walk alone.
Others have been there and made it, and so can you. You need not walk alone.
That's right.
Yeah. And I love it. I go to some meetings and you don't have to talk.
No.
I mean, people can either talk or not talk.
Right.
I mean, nobody cares, they can pass or whatever. But one thing I love, Heidi, and you and I were talking about it, is the national conference.
Yes.
It's amazing.
It is.
Every year there's a national conference. Last year it was in Costa Mesa, this year, I should say. Next year it's going to be in Boston. And we were talking, Kendrick was talking that there's not a lot for siblings. Wow, there's a lot for siblings at the Compassionate Friends.
Yes, the Compassionate Friends does well in including siblings and having a big sibling
At the
program.
national conference.
Yes.
The groups is kind of hard to get on a local group to get siblings. There are a few of them, but it's tougher. But at the national,
it is the one place that siblings can go and be heard and have their loss validated. And we talk a lot, because I do a lot of sibling workshops, about what is different about our loss versus our parents' loss. And it's a place to go and be heard. And so, yeah, I love it. Those conferences are so powerful.
And also, you had a unique situation in that you were a parent with no living children. And this is an opportunity for people to go and be around other parents who have maybe suicide or no living children, or, those all unique things, a lot of workshops and things. But let's stop and take some audience questions now. I'm sure the audience will have some questions about Compassionate Friends.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
How do you find out where the meetings are, or how if there's one in your city, or where they meet into times and all that?
Okay.
easiest way is to go on our chapter locator that's on our website, CompassionateFriends.org. And we have a chapter locator. You can put your zip code in there, and it will find the nearest chapter for you. You can also call the office, and the office will do a referral.
In what ways does the Compassionate Friends support teens in their grieving?
Well, as Heidi said, the national conference we do, I think, a really good job with the teens. The individual chapters, sometimes it's more difficult to keep the sibling groups going, and I'm not exactly sure why that is, but at the national conferences, though, that is a big help.
But there
to the
is
teens.
also a wonderful sibling Facebook page.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is
absolutely.
big. So
Yeah.
the social media, if you've got any siblings out there who you're wondering who to connect with, have them go to Compassionate Friends to the sibling
Right.
Facebook
It's the Compassionate Friends Sounds of the Siblings Facebook. It's a great place. And just to answer, I'm sorry, your name?
Scotty.
Just to answer Scotty's question here, I love all the stuff they do for teens at these conferences, because it's not just talking. Because, sometimes teens don't want to talk, and sometimes they don't feel like talking, and sometimes they might be like men of few words. So there's a lot of doing stuff, activities and going out and having fun and going to Disneyland this year. So there's a lot of events. And, the thing about bereaved siblings, just like bereaved parents, when we're all together, we so get it that it transcends words. Sometimes we don't need to talk. Just being in the room with other people that have been where you have been is so healing. And I think that's one of the amazing things. And the siblings make lifelong friendships forever. Anybody else? Yes.
My name's Marty. And is Compassionate Friends for newly bereaved parents, or do you have parents going in, 5 years out after the death of a child?
It's for either. I have actually seen where a bereaved parent will come from the funeral and hear about the Compassionate Friends and go to a meeting. Now, that's a little soon, usually. Everybody's different when they want to come to their first meeting, but some people might be there that are 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, but they're really there to help and the more newly bereaved to get that sense of normalcy back in their life.
And also the national candle lighting every year. Is it the second week in December?
Second Sunday in December.
Second Sunday in December is amazing, because people will come who are, years and years bereaved, because it gives them a kind of once a year opportunity to remember their child, and families will come, and those are big events. So, and I love the Compassionate Friends because it's there if you have an anniversary, or say somebody gets married in the family and your kid's not there after 20 years and you need to go tell somebody about it. There's this group that you can go tell about it that's interested in it. But Heidi, I'd like to end our questions now, because I want Pat to talk about where she is today.
Okay.
And about your family today, because your two kids are leaving for college.
Yes, they are, as we speak. As we speak.
I have two subsequent children, a boy and a girl.
Who were born after Stephanie and Stephen died.
That's right. They were born after they died, and they are going away to college this week, and so it's exciting for our household. Somebody asked if I felt that empty nest, and I don't. I feel the great pride. I'll miss them like crazy while they're gone, but I feel that great pride that they've made. They're setting off on their life's journey, and I don't know. I'm just really excited about it for them.
That's great. I was wondering, how do you keep Stephanie and Steve alive in the memory of Chris and Katie?
We always talk about Steph and Steve in our family, and there are pictures up, and they've always been a part of our family from the time the kids were born. I always made sure that I told their teachers that if they drew extra children into the drawings, at, you know, when you draw the family picture.
Oh, I love that. Me too.
I always told the teachers that it was true, that they could expect that, and they would draw little angels in the sky. Because they were so real.
And I think that's all of our role, that's one of our major roles in this room, is to keep the memories of those that we've loved and lost alive. And so, you know, that our kids, et cetera, will know, like you said, they know their siblings, even though they've never met them. My children know their uncle, even though they've never met him, through me and through the memories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's important.
It is, and they become more precious. You know, one of the things people are always afraid about is that they'll forget.
Yeah.
But I have to tell people out there, you people who are newly bereaved, the memories become more precious, and you remember more things. And with Facebook now, Heidi, hasn't everybody been commenting on Scotty lately?
Absolutely. The thing about remembering more over time is that the grief no longer gets in the way of the memories.
That's right.
I used to think of
Exactly.
Scott, and I would get so overwhelmed with grief that I couldn't go there.
Yes.
Now I can go and visualize him and remember those wonderful times with him.
Right, exactly. You don't remember how they died.
Right.
You remember how they lived.
Absolutely.
And that's, when you get to that point, that's when you know that you're on a healing path.
You know, one of the things I know, going to a Compassionate Friends meeting, I'll have to say, can be very traumatizing the first time for people out there. And we really recommend, what do you recommend about that?
We recommend that they attend at least 3 meetings to see if it's really for them. That first meeting, you go in there with expectation that somehow there's going to be a magic answer and you're going to not feel the pain. But you listen to the other people in the room, and a lot of times you take home, you know, some of that pain with you. So going back, knowing what to expect on the second or the third time really does help to make that transition and know that, you know, what to expect, that the dynamics are different at the different meetings, and it really, you know, if you give yourself that chance, it really does help.
Okay, I really want to go to Compassionate Friends meeting. There are 650 chapters, right? It's a big country. There's not a chapter in every community. What if I want to start a chapter? And, you know, how do you do that? Can you do that? Can I do that?
Absolutely. We'd love to have you start a chapter. We want you at least 18 months along in your grief. The reason being is we want you to go through those first. It's very difficult to help somebody else when you are in such heavy grief yourself. So be at least 18 months along and have some other people to help you start the chapter.
And head onto your website and find out all about it.
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's
Thank you.
so great, Pat. And
Thank
it's
you,
always
Pat.
fabulous to see you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Heidi, our next guest is going to be somebody who we're very fond of, Chris Donahoe, right?
Absolutely, and he's got amazing music, and he dedicates, as we said before, all his music to his beautiful brother, Terrence.
Absolutely, and we heard him at the Compassionate Friends National Conference, speaking of that.
We did. He's got fabulous music. It is so healing, and you know, music hits you at such a deep level. It really opens up your heart and opens up your emotions and opens up the memories.
And we're going to hear him sing about gratitude. Gratitude is a big thing for us, right?
It is, and finding gratitude in everything, like being grateful today that we're here with all these amazing guests.
Absolutely. Being grateful that you can match your socks in the morning.
Okay, so with that, it looks like we have got it. We're going to turn it over to Chris and hear his song.
Great.
I can race through the day, can live in the rush. And what can you do? What can you do? I can lie in the dark, say life isn't fair. And what can you do? What can you do? But teach me every brilliant day. The only thing, when all is stripped away, gratitude. I can give you my money, can lend you a hand. And what do you do? What do you do? I can give you a kiss, can give you a song. And what do you do? What do you do? But give me miracles. And yeah, the only thing in every brilliant day. The only thing when all is stripped away. Gratitude. Gratitude. A promise due right, a whisper goodbye. Carry me with you. The only thing in every brilliant day. The only truth when all is stripped away. Gratitude.
Thank you.
Chris, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for having me.
That was amazing.
Appreciate it.
That was fabulous.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Gratitude. I love Terrence's attitude about life. I mean, he had gratitude even while he was dying, which I think is incredible and speaks to him. And I've got to show this to the audience because I love this as a picture of him.
That is Terrence in Paris in 1992. And we have lots of photos of Terrence jumping. He just had this, he wanted to be photographed in the air flying. So it really captures his essence.
Yeah.
It really does.
And he was a physician, right?
He was a first-year surgical resident, had finished med school, and was doing what he loved. He loved being a surgeon. He loved solving problems and finding that way to help somebody. And he was doing it and was really thriving when he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
And that began a almost 6-year battle with the disease that took his life.
Wow.
And but he was determined to live life fully, even though it was taking his life. And in a way, it was an opportunity to see how to live and to appreciate life. And he taught me so much, taught my siblings so much, my family. And I really see a huge gift that he left us, a legacy of his love. And gratitude is the heart of that. He said, I've lived a great life, I have no regrets, and I'm thankful for you. So what else can I do but to use that gratitude to get through every day and to spread it?
Right.
And, it would be doing a disservice to his life not to.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's an amazing message for everybody out there. I'm just wondering, what would you like the world to know about sibling loss?
I think in my case, you know, it's very sad that Terrence is gone, but I can't forget the gift of having been able to say goodbye to him. It's a long battle, and that song Gratitude came out of a lot of guilt I was feeling about maybe not have been the best brother, and having the opportunity to really talk to him and have all the conversations you want to have, say everything you want to say, helped me, help my siblings, help my family get through it and move forward, which is what he wanted. And as far as my siblings, it's brought us closer, and we've leaned on each other. I think it has brought us together in a new way, and we try to celebrate him. We talk about him. You know, I injured my knee last year. My sister called and said, "Oh, Terrence would have a field day with this. He would love to know what you're doing for your knee." I mean, so we keep him alive and by having conversations. And you know what Ken said really resonated with me about the conversation. If you're having it, it just helps you get through and move forward and keep living.
And keeping his memory alive as well. And I love how you and your siblings really appreciate each other, because you realize, look, the sibling relationship, you don't take it for granted. And I feel the same way with my sisters. We're very, very close because we realize we're lucky to still have each other on the earth.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother message.
Yeah, and I think it's a hard wake-up call, right?
Yeah.
You know, you, like Ken was saying, your life, you're living it, everything's going well, then this happens, and you realize, wow, I'm not special.
Right.
This can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate my siblings and my family more than I ever have. And there's always a positive in this loss. There always is. And I've just decided that I'm going to try and find every positive, and it's in there. There's always the sadness. It never goes away. But
you know what I really love? I'm sitting here just enjoying this as a parent, because I know the parents in this audience, and I know those parents that are out there in TV land are worried about their kids. You know, you worry about yourself and trying to get over the loss, but you're really worried that it's going to destroy your kids' lives and that they'll never be the same. And you two are just fabulous examples of what is it? How do you say it defines you, but it doesn't destroy you?
Yeah, because I do hear that over and over. That is parents' biggest question when I work with parents. Will my kids, their childhoods are forever destroyed, their lives are forever destroyed. You know, they'll never be happy. You know, look what's happened to them. And like you said, look, even though it's a horrendous thing, we can still find joy again, and we can still find gratitude and positive things in our lives.
Right.
Now, one question I want to ask you guys to talk about a little bit here is taking care of your parents. I love the fact that you guys are talking about your siblings, and but sometimes kids are told, you know, how are your parents doing? You got to be strong for them, right?
I remember early on, and that what my mom needed most of all was just to talk, and to just talk and let me listen to whatever was happening in her life, what how her friends were reacting or not reacting, and because I didn't know how to comfort her. I didn't understand, so I hope it was helpful. I hope it was just and just to be there, because I wanted to do my part to support her without being judgmental, without having the answers, because I didn't have them.
Right. Well, I'm sure you did. And we are going to hear your next song, which I love, from this album of yours, March. And by the way, March is not the month of the year. I love it because it's March to your own tune. And Beautiful Blood. Love this song, Chris, and I'm looking forward to hearing you sing.
It's also the month Terrence was born.
The month he was born. So we're going to go out with
Wonderful.
the song March, and we're going to close the show now. And then we'll go out with Chris singing the song March. And thank you for being on the show today, Chris. It's been great. And Heidi and I want to thank our audience.
Thank you, Chris.
We want to thank Pat. We want to thank Ken. We want to thank everybody. And we particularly want to thank the Mid-Peninsula Media Center in Palo Alto, California, for going to all the energy to help us put on this fabulous show.
Yes, and this show was brought to you by the Open to Hope Foundation with the mission of helping people find hope after loss. Please visit us at opentohope.com, where you can listen to Open to Hope Radio, read articles, and view our books.
And now we're going to hear from Chris.
light and dark a blur, pray to some cruel saboteur, and you march. And some wars can't be won, somehow you knew it all along, and you march. You don't lay your weapons down, your feet numb to the ground. March to your own drummer, march, beautiful brother, wherever you are, the beat of your heart will march. And meaning distilled to simple truths and will when you march. And lost is any choice, but lost is not your voice, and you march. And what's broken can't disguise a tireless, brilliant mind. March to your own drummer, march, beautiful brother, wherever you are, the beat of your heart will march, will march. And march with the pain and regret far behind. March with the rhythm of love on your mind. Let peace be the place that